This is Research Like a Pro, Episode 19, interview with study group graduate Sherri Hessick. Welcome to Research Like a Pro, a genealogy podcast about taking your research to the next level, hosted by Nicole Dyer and Diana Elder, accredited genealogy professional. Diana and Nicole are the mother-daughter team at FamilyLocket.com and the creators of the Amazon best-selling book, Research Like a Pro, A Genealogist's Guide. I'm Nicole, co-host of the podcast. Join Diana and me as we discuss how to stay organized, make progress in our research, and solve difficult cases. Let's go. Welcome everybody to Research Like a Pro today. Today's episode is an interview with a former study group member, Sherri Hessick, and I'm here with Sherri and with Diana. Hi.
Hi, everybody. Excited to be here today.
Hi.
Welcome, Sherri.
Thank you for inviting me, Nicole and Diana. I'm excited to be here.
We're excited to have you. It's going to be fun to discuss how the study group went with you. Before we jump into that, we're going to read a review from Allison. She says, I really enjoyed listening to the podcast. You brought up a lot of good thoughts, and I would like to come back and hear this podcast again. I feel like once is not enough because there was so much to take in. I can also identify the reason behind writing your objective up. As was stated, if you do not do this, you will get onto a site and could possibly just leave what you were doing to find another person. I understand very much, so this leaves very little to both people. I also have done that. I call it now my rabbit hole, and it is hard not to go down the hole. I guess if you feel that it is important for you to follow through on whatever evidence you have found. A good thought would be to write it down where you are, all of the information that you will need to return to that area when you have the time to do so. You could also be going down the rabbit hole then. Allison, you are so true, and that's why we write objectives. Thank you for your review. That was good to hear from you. We have some announcements. This coming week is Thanksgiving week and Black Friday. So if you are interested or thinking about buying our eCourse or our book, it's a great time to do so because we will be having a sale starting on Black Friday, and that's November 22nd. And going through the 26th, we'll discount the eCourse to $69. And then from Tuesday, for a few more days after that, the price will be $79. So if you buy it right away, you'll get a great discount. And the whole time the sale is going on, we'll have a sale on the ebook for $4.99. All right, let's go ahead and get started with today's episode. And I'm going to tell you first a little bit about Sherri. Sherri and I met when we were both working as family history consultants in our area here in Tucson. Sherri is a family history consultant at the Tucson Family History Center, and she's been doing family history research for a long time. She and I are also friends at the Pima County Genealogy Society, where we work together on the steering committee, and she's on the board. She's actually the vice president, and she does a lot of work for the society. So we're really grateful for her in so many ways. Sherri, welcome. And can you tell us how you got started in family history?
It was over 20 years ago. And actually, it was my father who got me started. He retired and needed a hobby. So he called me up one day and said, give me all the information on Tom, your husband's family. So I walked into the Family History Center here in town and got hooked.
That's wonderful. So fast forward a few more years, we met and then we became friends and started doing family history research together. And then Diana decided to start the first Research Like a Pro study group. So let's talk about how you decided to join that. Diana, you want to take over?
So in July of 2017, I became accredited, and we had been writing the blog for, I think, about 2 years. And so I was just really wanting to share all of the things that I had learned through accreditation with other genealogists. I felt like I had made so many amazing discoveries about the research process. So I started writing these blog posts called Research Like a Pro. And I kept having this idea that it would be really fun to have a study group and see if I could share these ideas with other like-minded genealogists and see if it worked for other people as well as for me. And I think the reason I was so interested in doing that was because, well, I am a teacher at heart and by profession, and I had been teaching classes in my local church, and I just really wanted to help other people learn how to research better. So I posed the idea to Nicole and said, what about if we try a study group and we get everyone together and meet online with Google Hangouts? And she thought it was a great idea. And we just put it out on the blog, and we had, I think, 10 or 11 people sign up and actually pay money to be part of the study group, which was so exciting for us. And Sherri was one of those people. So I was thrilled to have all these genealogists coming on board. And it was, to be honest, a little intimidating having you come on board, Sherri, because you had such a background. You were, a Boston University graduate, and you had done all this stuff. And I really wondered if I had anything that I could offer. So tell us a little bit, Sherri, about why you wanted to be part of the study group when it was untried and untested.
I was pretty excited to join your study group, actually, Diana. When I retired from working in the corporate world, I was trying everything I could to get a good education in genealogy, and the Boston University assignments that were given to me to do that were other people's projects, if you know what I mean. They weren't my projects. And so when I saw your study group, I saw that I could work on my own research and work on my own project and apply some of the things that I had learned, and yet see how other genealogists did their work, and a professional one being you, and also get feedback from other genealogists. Whereas at the Boston University, you're really only getting feedback from your instructor. So I love a study group environment where you're getting feedback from the other students as well, knowing that the other ones also had different kind of experiences than what I had. And that also enhanced the learning experience for me. I not only learned from you, but I learned from them as well. That was really important to me, and it was not stressful because, I mean, you're a good teacher, Diana, I have to admit, you're a very good teacher, and I didn't feel stressed at all, and it gave me a good chance to use the skills that I had learned at Boston University and practice them, and also enhance with some new skills and add to them. So I just loved the whole experience. I can't say enough about it. I just loved it.
Well, thank you for that. And I love that you mentioned that we all had different skills, because I was coming from, just having done accreditation and doing this professionally, and you had a great background, but we had a few people that were pretty beginner level genealogists. And I thought it was so interesting how they had really fresh outlooks on our research. I think some of the other study group members wondered if they would have anything valuable to say on the feedback, but I thought everyone gave really valuable feedback. Just having someone else look at your work is really, really valuable. I was glad to have you on board, though, because with your background, you were able to give good feedback to some of the others who were struggling. So it was very, very helpful.
Well, thank you. And I agree, the beginners really had some good feedback to give as well. Having fresh eyes, like you said, really makes a difference.
I agree. I thought it was a fun group. And that was the first time I had done the whole process, also. So it was fun to be able to do it at the same time as my friend Sherri. So, Sherri, tell us more about your project and what was your objective that you created for the study group?
Well, my objective was to find the parents of Elizabeth Betsy Thompson. She was born in March of 1791 at St. Mary's County, Maryland, and married Joseph Masterson 7 September 1814 in New Hope, Nelson County, Kentucky. She's been a brick wall for many genealogists studying these families. Now, they have assigned fathers to her, but most genealogists didn't have any sources for the fathers that they have assigned to her, except for one source. And that one source was, in my opinion, kind of iffy and brought questions to my mind because it listed her with her maiden name of Thompson, and the source was dated several years after she was already married. I wanted to find out, was that really her father, or was there someone else that was her father? So that was my objective.
If I remember right, the name of that individual was George. Is that correct? George Thompson?
That is correct.
Okay. So for our listeners, you will notice that when Sherri was discussing her objective, that she had learned to do how we say to do objectives, to include the complete date and names and places. And, you may still be thinking that you don't know that it's really valuable to have an objective. But Sherri, just talk to us a little bit about how valuable it was to really narrow in on a specific objective. Had you ever done an objective before, or how did you usually go about doing your research projects?
I had done objectives before, but they were always either too broad or too narrow, and they weren't very valuable to me. So you helped me write this objective so that it was just right. You have to really put enough information that you're focusing and identifying just which Betsy Thompson you're talking about. Some identifiers for her because there was more than one Betsy Thompson in the area. So you have to make sure you're focusing in on the right Betsy Thompson.
I love that because sometimes we tend to think that our ancestor's the only one with that name, right? Nobody else was named Betsy
Right.
Thompson. So that was great. And you had a difficult objective. Were not a lot of records in the area at that time. Place Kentucky was the frontier. It was really fun when I read your objective actually, because I had just done a project for my husband right there in that same area and same time frame, and they were also Catholics. So as I was looking through your work, I saw a lot of things that were very similar. That was pretty fun for me. So the next thing after the objective, the next assignment that we did was the timeline analysis, which I think that all of us agree that's one of our favorite things, going back through the records and checking it out. So what did you find when you did your analysis, or how did that turn out for you?
I have done timelines before, not on every project, but I've done simple timelines where it was just an event and a year and a place. But this one was way more detailed where I would put in the actual source for the information and analyze the source in the way of evidence analysis from Elizabeth Shown Mills, where you put whether it's an original or a derivative, primary, secondary, direct, indirect. And I have never done that before. So that in itself was eye opening. It helped me determine how reliable the information I had on her and her family was to begin with. Also, by putting it in a timeline, it highlighted some contradictory information that I didn't realize was contradictory, like I had twins born in different places, which is kind of not possible. But it also showed me some migration patterns that I hadn't realized that they had moved. So it was very interesting. And I also added in my timeline. Now, this is something that Diana let us do, and not only let us do, but encouraged us to do, is to take her method and modify it to make it our own. And I added a column in the timeline called Fan Club, and I would add witnesses and other people that were in the records. So that was good. So that on the marriage bond, I put in that, okay, I had the name of Joseph's father was Zachariah listed on the marriage bond, and the name of the priest that married them and things like that. So that was helpful to me. Unfortunately, I didn't find the baptismal records for any of the children, which is what I wanted to do because I needed to know if the witnesses were relatives of Betsy's. That would help me determine if they were brothers and sisters. That would help me find her parents.
Which I love because I think all the way through this process, as you make connections, you just get more and more ideas of how to research the problem. And you probably felt like you were kind of at a dead end. You just didn't even know what else to do next with this. You felt like you'd done everything you could. And so I think this gave you a lot of ideas about what to do. And I love your fan club column. And I have suggested that to lots of people since, because that is an excellent addition to the timeline analysis. So, what was next in the process, Nicole?
We created our locality guides next. And I won't forget when we got together in the study group to talk about how the assignment went. It was so funny that Sherri said that she didn't really want to do the assignment at first. So tell us about that, Sherri.
I mumbled and grumbled to myself, and I got to that part of it, I thought, why do I have to do that part? I know how to research in Kentucky. I know what records are available there. I don't have to do this. But I was being a good student. I signed up to do this. So I've decided I'm going to do what they told me to do, and I started to do it. And you know what? I think it was the most fun part of the whole process. And and I was even sorry to have to stop doing it and go on to the next assignment. But it was a lot of fun. And since then, I have started to do other locality guides on other localities that I have worked on. But it was a lot of fun. And not only fun, but it was very helpful because I found lots of records available that I didn't really know once I really started researching what was out there for Kentucky. So when you focus on this stuff and don't let other bright and shiny objects interrupt you, you can really make a lot of progress and find things that you didn't know was
Well,
there.
I loved your Kentucky guide so much. I asked you if I could have a copy of it to use because I figured that I might as well get something out of the study group also. So you were kind enough to let me put that into my Evernote. That's where I keep all my guides. Now I just need a good Kentucky project. I think I've had maybe one or two since then, but I need to focus on a fun Kentucky project to use that guide. Well, after doing the locality guide, then it was finally time to do the research planning. And I put this after the locality guide because everyone is always so excited because they found all these great records that they want to try to search. And I always tell everybody in the study group, you can't search the records until it's part of your plan. So had you ever done research planning before, Sherri, or was this something new? What did you think about having to do a plan?
Well, I had done a plan, and mostly in the Boston University classes when I had really done a good plan. And then this one, I did a better plan. You don't really dig deep when you do the Boston University class. So this one helped me dig deep. So this plan, I got real detailed with it, and I really saw what all the conflicting data was. And in your plan, you put in your objective, you list what all your known facts are and what your potential conflicting data is. And then you come up with a working hypothesis, which I've always been really horrible on working hypotheses. I was never able to really come up with one. They didn't make any sense to me. And Diana helped me figure out that they didn't have to be what I thought they had to be. I thought a working hypothesis had to be, this is what I think the answer will be. Like, I think the answer is going to be that it'll be George Thompson. But it doesn't have to be that. It can be something like, well, I think the answer will be that the father was born between these years in this place. That's all it had to be. So that made a lot more sense to me. Then you identify the sources and then you prioritize them, and that's your research strategy. And then that's your focus for the actual research. I'll tell you what, though, once you get to that point, you're really itching to start doing the research. It's hard
It
not
really
to.
is hard, and I have to commend you for just hanging in there and doing that. Yes, your research plan was really impressive. I think it was interesting because you had a case that a lot of people had done research on and there, had some ideas already on it. And so you had to really look for all the conflicting evidence and all the things that just didn't make sense. And I know a lot of our listeners have similar cases or similar brick walls where it feels like tons of people have done the research and come to this conclusion, and you just may not agree with it. So, doing this whole process helps to clarify things. So, I loved reading through your research plan and helping you do your hypothesis to figure out what to do next. So, I did notice though in your research strategy, I always tell people to do 5 main things, and you did do 7. So, you just had to put in 2 more, didn't you, Sherri? So sometimes it's hard to
That's
limit
true,
it
I
to
did.
just 5 because you found all these good records, and so that's okay. I totally understand if you need to just do a little bit more. So let's see, what do we do next after research planning? Well, that's when we get to actually do the research. So, Nicole, as part of this process, what were you guys doing next?
We had to follow our research plan and create source citations and log everything in our research log. And I know Sherri had created a lot of citations before this, but for me, it was like some of the first citations I had really done. So it was a challenge. How was it for you, Sherri?
The source citations weren't that bad because I've done a lot of them. However, I'll tell you what, I'm now in the ProGen study group, and we did the chapter on source citations, and we've noticed that lately in the NGSQ, the source citations are a lot more compressed than what they are from the Evidence Explained book. Anyway, yeah, the source citations, I don't really have that much trouble with them because I've been doing them for a while. I've studied that book forwards and backwards, so I don't have that much trouble with it. I have like a little template that I stick in the research log, and then I just fill in the blanks, like for a census, and I just fill in the blanks if I find it. If I don't find it, then I don't have to fill in the blanks, for the details because there are no details.
And did you find anything that helped you with this project during your research, or did you still stay stuck?
No, I did not find her father. However, I did make progress. I found several Thompsons that could possibly be her father, and I have a path to go next, but I don't know for sure who her father is.
I've been working on my father of Cynthia Dillard Royston forever too, and I'm in my second or third project for figuring that out. I feel like I'm getting closer, but sometimes with these difficult brick walls, we do have to do several projects, and each one getting us a little bit closer to making that discovery or to finally just saying, okay, I've done reasonably exhaustive research. I feel good about this. And so part of that process is writing a report. And this is the culminating step of the Research Like a Pro process. And writing reports sometimes strikes fear into the hearts of the study group members. So, how did you feel about writing a report, Sherri? I can't remember if you were worried about that at all.
I love writing the research reports. It really helps me think about it and put all my thoughts in order and organize it, and it makes it easy for me when I pick the project up again, because unfortunately, I haven't been able to get back to it since then. So, when I am able to get back to it and really spend some time on it again, I'm gonna know right where I'm gonna be able to pick it up again. But I know what I've done and why I thought what I thought and why I did what I did. And the research report to me is the culmination of the whole project. Now, when I was a green genealogist, I didn't understand the importance of a research report, honestly. But I just love it. It helps me tremendously, even though I'm putting information in my genealogy database. Having the research report with all my thoughts in it really
Well,
pulls it
it does. And
together.
looking back over your report, I was impressed with like all the tables that you used. You created so many really amazing tables in your analysis and in your report that really help to make sense of the information. So I think that you'll be able to go right back to it and it'll be so easy for you to pick this back up because you've got all your thoughts down on paper. You're not going to have to try to redo any of this. And your future research suggestions are great too. I think you've got like, I don't know, over 10 different things to go with in the future. So basically, you have your research plan all made for the next session, don't you? You don't have to go through that.
Absolutely. I can't wait until I have some more time. When I'm done with ProGen, I'm picking this up
Good.
and
Well,
running with
you
it.
need to make sure you let us know what happens because we're all excited to know if George is really the father of your Elizabeth Betsy. So I just have a final little thought here or question for you, Sherri. Now that you've done the research like a pro process, has that made a difference, or how has it made a difference in your research now as you're going forward?
Well, actually, I am working on becoming accredited, and I started on my first generation of the 4 generation project. So I did the timeline, and I discovered that the only sources I had for that was a letter from my mother in law's grandmother and some census records. So, oh my goodness, I had no primary sources. So I went through the whole process of doing, objectives and a research plan and report, and it was wonderful. And research log and whole 9 yards.
I'm so glad to hear that you are still doing accreditation and going forward. And I think you're going to find that going through the whole Research Like a Pro process really, really is going to prepare you for accreditation. So I'm excited to have you join us someday. I'm hoping it's not too far in the future because I think you are going to be such a great addition to our group of accredited genealogists.
Well, thank you.
Just in final closing thoughts, I want to really thank Sherri for being on here. I know it's kind of intimidating to be on a podcast, and so we really appreciate you coming on and sharing your experiences and just your honesty with the whole thing. I love working with people that just will tell me right up front, no, I don't want to do this assignment, but I'll do it just because I'm obedient. So that's awesome. All right, then. Well, thanks for listening, everyone, and we will talk to you next time.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to Research Like a Pro with Diana Elder, accredited genealogy professional, and Nicole Dyer. We hope that something you heard today will help you make progress in your own genealogy research. If you like what you heard, please leave us a review on iTunes or Stitcher, or visit our website, familylocket.com, to contact us. You can find our book, Research Like a Pro, A Genealogist's Guide, on Amazon.com and other booksellers. We hope you'll start now to research like a pro.